And the seven-centered human creature, as we see here on this body graph, you see we began as 3, we shifted into the 5, and then we shifted into the 7. The seven-centered creature was what we were from 1781 and 90,000 years before. So that was the time that it took to develop our self-reflective consciousness, the ajna and head center relative to this current human being, the language of how we identify with it. Ajna being about our conceptualization process, head being about our inspiration function. So Ross says something to realize that is that there has been this movement over and over again. The seven-centered was once 5, the 5 was once 3. It's one of those progressions that are just there. So now, just a real brief note here. This 5-centered graph that you're seeing on my screen here, this is the design of a dream rave. And when Ra was given this knowledge, he was given the design of forms, but he called it human design because it was way more practical. Ra being a very practical man, wanting to get it out to the world. What can this material do for you? Self-realization, self-actualization, enlightenment in the modern sense, not in the seven-centered sense, which we'll discuss in our courses. But this 5-centered body graph that you're looking at contains the same centers as when we were 5, but relative to it's a dream rave analysis that you want to go look at if you want to understand your dream design. And your dream design is one of the deepest layers of conditioning you are exposed to every day, every time you sleep, every time you are engaged with that kind of restful, even like twilight sleep, you're still getting that programming feed. So I mention this because this is one of those things. I'm going to show you a little bit about primary health system in a few moments here and tell you that it's so critical that you operate in alignment as well as take care of your body the way that it's designed to be treated. You go find a primary health system practitioner or a differentiation degree program graduate like myself or a variable teacher, anybody who can help you make sure that you're treating your body correctly. Please enter into that according with your decision-making strategy, your strategy and authority. Because what that's going to do with the primary health system is help you to mitigate some of the deepest challenges that you are faced with or forced to grapple with when you wake up every freaking morning. Primary health system helps you with some of that challenges that you're having to following your decision-making strategy. The body is the life. The body is what is experiencing this life, and the personality mind construct is just observing the life. And so when you wake up in the morning, you have all of this bleed through effect from the dream rave. So I highly recommend that you check that aspect out. If you're at this level of the knowledge where you've taken rave cartography, check out dream rave, check out primary health system when it's right for you, because it's going to help you a lot with your deconditioning process. Okay. Now, Homo sapiens. So here we're looking at a 7-centered construct, right? 7 chakras to be precise, because you see all of the symbols of the Hindu Brahmin chakra system there. So everything that we have in this life to praise ourselves for, the technologies, the sophistications, our medicines, sewer systems, glory that you want to claim, all of that was built on the backs of the Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. For 90,000 years, we developed our self-reflective consciousness, ajna and head. So now this movement of energy, you can see this interweaving back and forth between the centers up to the head center. That is the way that the energy moved back then. Okay. Now we are in a very different kind of construct. Our human creatures in this time and era, as you might have recalled, Ross called us Homo sapiens in transitus, because we are in a transitional form. So we don't have the fully developed solar plexus or emotional intelligence function as an awareness function. Right now, it is dominated by its motor function. There's a lot of energy, a lot of power, a lot of force moving through that developing spirit consciousness because it's currently being mutated. We, as human creatures, being mutated by the current background frequency, the program that we happen to be subject to, okay, transits, in other words. So the nine-centered human being structure, that structure doesn't change. You were born with a genetic imprint, you die with that same genetic imprint. But what happens between those two times, those moments in time and space, is a part of our developmental process for whatever this life happens to be for us, whether that be days or whether that be decades or even a century. So relative to the perfectedness of this form, it is still gestating. Over on the left-hand side, you see the Homo sapiens singularity, energy moving up to the crown chakra, you know, like that blossoming of the flower, the 10,000 petal lotus at the top of the head. You know, it's a very different process that we are currently engaged in. And yet, in today's day and age, people are still stuck in the homogenized construct of what the seven-centered human, Homo sapiens, had to offer us. So the essence of this singularity of what the Homo sapiens had, they had seven-centered religions, which we still to this day practice. They had the morality of right, wrong, good, bad, justifications of this or that, finding oneness through unity with the cosmic beyond outside of the body. So die, and now you get your rewards in the afterlife. I mean, come on. No, I want my rewards in this life, this form, this vehicle, this body. And you can see it all around us relative to what our societal structures are looking towards. Strategic in nature, meaning the biology of a seven-centered human being had way more of its focus on the tangible reality, what you could see, what you could smell, and what you could taste. Okay, so very strategic. What would bring security? What would bring the ability to take action or to be able to discern, be so picky or selective about this or that uncertainty being part of the principle. So Homo sapiens, energy moving up, okay? Seven-centered Kundalini energy, the snake rising from the root chakra all the way up to the head center. That's not us anymore. We're in a new vehicle now. So everything about the seven-centered was to develop self-reflected consciousness. Yeah, Ajna, conceptualization, head, inspiration. Now, 1781. We're looking at a nine-centered human being, Homo sapiens and transitus. As far as Ra could tell, in 1781, there were no more births of the seven-centered human. And of course, everybody who was born before that dying out after that time frame. So calling us Homo sapiens and transitus because we are not Homo sapiens. And yet we are not the full-blown Rave. That's why, you know, it's the Rave mandala, the Rave body graph, the Rave return, the Rave. What's a Rave? A Rave is a fully developed nine-centered human being. We are not that because we have not been born after 2027. Okay, so we are no longer strictly human in the way that humans for 90,000 years thought of themselves as being human. We are something in between, neither this nor that. We are a transitional form. And in this form, this is the time, this is the era where you have the ability to be self-empowered and awakened to your individuality. And you can only do that if you let go of your mind running the show, telling you what to do, because the transits are always being reflected within your mind, the people that you're with. Okay, so relative to the evolution of humanity, this is a transitional force that we're dealing with, a time in our lives where it's no longer about the strategic seven-centered religions, the morality of right and wrong, the good and bad, or finding oneness. This is about you and your sovereign nature, trusting yourself for your decision-making process. A great time to break away from the illusion of Maya, which lives in the mind. Each one of us, Maya mechanics, those of you who are studying human design at whatever level. And Ross says, quote, to free ourselves, this is the greatest time to break away from the power of mind. He says to free ourselves, not simply from what we describe on the surface as the not self and the way the not self works, but we have to free ourselves from being nothing more than poor copies of a much different form, because it's not any more about mind. It can't be, end quote. This particular form is designed to have its own individuality, the door to inner truth, opened by Pluto recently, and that door to inner truth closing as the new cycle or the new era shifts over into a new background frequency with different keys. So this Homo sapien in transitus that we are, not really human, this is the transitional field. This body graph, this structure never changes. And yet, I mean, with the thing that you were born with, and yet, there's a couple things happening in one's life. You have cycles every single year. You have transits. You have larger life cycles like Saturn and Uranus opposition and Chiron and your second Saturn. And you also have lunar cycles. I mean, there's all kinds of cycles. So the only thing that you can trust is the thing that remains reliably consistent about you throughout your entire life. And that is your decision-making strategy, the energetic nature of your inherent truth or sense of being, whatever that happens to be for you, what you can trust inside of your own uniqueness, your own nature. So this system offers us something that has never been seen before. It gives us the ability to awaken, to be correct, by being in touch, in tune with our own unique, differentiated form. This is form knowledge, this human design system. It's about the mechanics of the Maya, and yet what it really serves to support is the form. So in the relational dynamic between you and your own experiment, nobody but you knows relative to, am I following my design? Am I living my design or not? There doesn't have to be any question once you get through the hump of letting go of the mind and sourcing into the body, because the body takes over, which is a really cool thing. The body starts to do what it came here to do. The body comes with this developmental knowing inside of what is right for it. And it is our mind inside the head about the self. I call it the thought you think that makes you shrink inside, because it rhymes and it's easier to remember, but it really, literally does happen. I'm not good enough. Nobody loves me was my mantra as a child. On the outside, bright, happy smile. On the inside, yeah, not particularly healthy. So you look at this body graph. Did you notice it was Ra's graph in the middle? It's kind of hard with the what do you call that, Katja, when it's like reversed, the reversed imagery? You can see how she's pulled out the personality construct and the design construct on either side so that you can see the personality is an imprint of your psychological nature, and the design, the form imprint, is your physiological nature. Okay, so we are a binary consciousness. These two things brought together, 1 + 1 = a third thing, not two, in human design. Just like when you're in a relationship with someone, you plus another person, you know the thing that the two of you become. You do not know each other. You never know your partner. You only know the thing that the two of you become. You never know just your personality or just your design. You only know the quantum of the two, the expressive duality of what your nature is relative to this life and this being. Opening up the doorway to duality, the true binary of what this Homo sapien in transitus is this dualistic construct or nature, where we can develop self-reflected consciousness, observing the mind, witnessing the body, and we can also align to the inherent truth of our nature, the form.